rugged, barren, unpredictable. The moors really are a unique and special place. I find great comfort out there. Maybe it's because of the hectic lifestyle and an opportunity to be alone, or maybe it's just the stunning views. But that iconic purple heather and those rolling hills really do get under your skin, and tomorrow we have an opportunity to be back out in them because we have the Maybeck Three Crosses Fell Race. It's about 7.5 miles long, 800 foot of vert, so a fairly flat course, but that will suit me down to the ground because training of late has been all about speed. In fact, it wasn't until last weekend when we recce'd the course that we got out on the moors in well over 2 months, and it's something I have really missed.
I think it's vital if you want to do well in any race, you recce the course. You need to know where the climbs are, the descents, what are the sticky patches where you can really push hard, where you can hold back. And this course is pretty much uphill for the first 1.5 miles through forestry trails, as you can see behind me. We then end up onto the moors, which heads to what I'm assuming is the Three Crosses, which will be a mound of some sort, I think. It swerves back round and ends up back into the forestry trails again. Pretty mixed terrain, quite good underfoot. I think this should be quite a quick course, but let's carry on the recce and see what the moors have got to throw at us. Really good example here, guys, why I'm checking out the course. Just behind me, you'll see a track. I think this is probably what we're meant to come up on, but actually, if you wade through the heather, just diagonally, because the ridgeline brings us across to the track, could easily save 2 or 3 seconds in the race itself. Add that up, making a load of good decisions across the whole course, could transform your race. Already found quite a few good lines. There's a lot of boggy bits, and if you can find your way around those, it'll probably save your legs for later in the race. But I'm just enjoying being up here. It's really windy, really cold, but my training's been really focused on getting fast, park run times, a lot of road work on the weekends as well. So it's just nice to get out on the moors, not worry about pace, not worry about how fast I'm going, and just enjoy being out on my own. And with views like that, can't complain.
Training has gone really well of late. This is probably the fastest I've ever been, but my only slight reservation is we've not been on this rough stuff very often, and it can take a couple of races just to get your eye back in. But setting a new 5k PB has certainly helped my confidence. I feel like we've broken past a bit of a barrier there. I've not really been doing much mileage, it's been in the low 40s tops, but the speed work we have done has been really intense. That's the phase of training we're in at the moment, heading towards the Yorkshire Three Peaks before we hit the hills and the longer, more endurance-based stuff in the coming months. And of course, that's what the A-Goal focus is, the Yorkshire Three Peaks. So tomorrow's race on Maybeck is going to be a training race, but also an opportunity just to see where I am and measure myself up against other people in the area. My favourite part of the course has to be around halfway. There's an out and back, which just adds a whole different dimension to the race. Having to pass people face to face and see what their form's like, whether they're looking good for the fight at the end of the race, I think it adds the mind game element to it. Also doubles up as part of the Lyke Wake Challenge route, which is a 42-mile crossing of the moors, A to B, point to point in the most direct route possible. It's a course I'd love to run, would love to do it. It's one thing running across the moors on trails, but to do it in the most direct route possible just would be mint. So it's definitely on my bucket list, and it's always great to spend time on parts of the course.
I'm just on the latter part of the course now, very much more technical than the first, all downhill, so my type of running, I could really gain some time on this part. But I think I need to be careful that I don't give up too much time in the first half on that big climb. This bit's a little bit awkward because there's a lot of bogs separated between the trails, like you can see here. It's hard to know, whoa, what line to take, just like there. Like I say, you can lose 2-3 seconds submerging yourself in a bog like I just did then. So if I'm either under pressure at this stage in the race or chasing someone, it's going to be one hell of an epic end. Fingers crossed for race day.
In the build up to Sunday, I somehow managed to slip while putting the bins out. Bashed my knee up pretty bad here. There was a lot of bruising and light tissue damage, but it didn't hurt much more to run than it did walk. This really did play on my mind over the weekend, and I had a big decision to make come Sunday morning, but decided to go and make the 11 o'clock start anyway and see how we got on up that first climb. It was a stacked field. Harry Holmes turned up, who's one of the best runners in the country. Nick Barber would join him at the front of the pack, and I was hoping to compete with the rest of the field.
Are you ready? 3, 2, 1.
The start was frantic as I nestled in 4th place. We all hammered our way down the slippery steps, which was a sign of things to come, and then going out the first main climb through the woods, everyone settled into their positions. Harry and Nick, as predicted, were out in front with Steve Donaldson shortly behind in 3rd. Then I was in the next cluster of runners. There was about 4 or 5 of us toing and throwing. The forecast had predicted wet and windy conditions, and it was really showing through with 45-mile-per-hour gusts. With all that rain we'd had in the build-up to race day, the course was saturated and a complete bog fest. I'd opted for a pair of new Inov-8 X-Talon 260s, and while these are generally an ultra shoe, I really wanted the lug depth, and that proved quite a good decision in these early stages. Leaving the woods and the fire roads behind, I lost 5th position to Tim Grimwood, and it was at this point I started to realise something wasn't quite right. My legs didn't have the power I thought they would in the tougher sections of the course, but the course wouldn't let up as we turned left onto a double track and straight into that 45-mile-an-hour headwind. This is a real strange section of the course. It's about 2 miles long and you can see every runner in front of you, but they're so hard to catch. Going into that wind and going through the clayey terrain that's separated by bogs and marshland. I was getting sapped with every step, and by the end of this section got overtaken by Jonathan from Scarborough Athletics Club. We then approached halfway, and that out and back I'd mentioned I was really looking forward to did not prove the case at all. Harry Holmes and Nick made this look real easy work, as did Steve Donaldson. Those 3 were way out in front now and didn't really look catchable, but 4th was definitely still up for grabs. As I turned the corner past the cross, it was great to see so many runners doing well from Pickering Running Club. I was trying to encourage them along, but I doubt they could hear me with the wind in the ears. The last 3.5 miles of the course are mainly downhill, technical and with a tailwind, so my type of running. I was hoping to catch 4th and 5th over this section of the course, but my legs just would not get going. It was like being in a bad dream where you're running through quicksand with someone chasing behind you, and this proved to be the case as 7th waited for his moment, then flew past me with perfect form. This was a real kick in the guts for me. My head started to drop a little bit, but I kept plugging away, and as we hit an easier section of the course, I started to reel the 3 in front back in, but then the marshland and the bogs came back. This sapped the last bit of energy I had in my legs and my head. My heart went, my head dropped, and I lost all fight for the race. On the last descent back into the car park, I didn't realise that 8th place was so close. He flew past me, and unfortunately I ended up giving up 7th as well. This was my biggest regret from the day, because it turned out the Pickering Running Club's men's team could have probably got 1st place had I held on. The last descent is very technical down Heather. I tried to gain it back and slipped at the bottom. Then on the road section I just had to settle for 8th in the end.
Cheers.
So we crossed the line in 56.5 minutes, averaging 7-minute 33-second miles. Not a bad pace considering the course, how boggy it was and the wind, but I was way off the pace of people I would have expected to keep up with, especially considering how good my training's been of late. So what the hell happened? I couldn't really blame the knee physically during the race itself. I didn't feel like it was holding me back, but mentally, something definitely went wrong. On the ride home, I explained the whole experience to Kim Cavell, and she said she'd been reading this book called Endure recently, which talks about the brain-body connection and how it's constantly a two-way conversation between the two. And she suggested that when you have an injury or your mind is so consumed with something that you feel is a problem, that can manifest itself subconsciously and make your mind switch the body off, put it into protection mode, and basically turn on the safety mechanism. I think this is probably what happened to me, because the strange sensations I had in my legs where I felt like I had more to give but I just couldn't dig it out, was something I've not really had before in a race environment. But having the fight for a race and having the right mentality is something I have struggled with in the past. So I'm going to go out and buy that book Endure and just try get my head in the right place for the next race, which is Bilsdale at the end of March. As for kit, I was really happy with the Inov-8 260s, the new Ultra shoe. I'm going to do a first impressions video on that quite soon. They were a little bit overkill in terms of the padding and cushioning, which added a little bit extra weight, and they did retain a little bit more water than I'd have liked, but those conditions were ridiculous and I think any shoe would have done. But the lug depth and the security was fantastic, so I think these shoes are going to be amazing over the longer distances. So a filthy day out, lots of lessons learned, which is always a bonus. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with the knee. I'm talking to you now the day after race day, and it's pretty bad. I can't weight bear, I can't walk on it, so we'll just see how that swelling settles down. I've got a physio appointment on Thursday as well. The next time I see you guys will be with that first impressions video for the Inov-8 shoe, and of course we'll be catching you with the race from Bilsdale, assuming all works well with the recovery. Thank you to everyone who organised the race. It was a fantastically organised event and amazing for the marshals to be out there in such ridiculous conditions, and I shall see you all with the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.